What's going on, guys? My nickname is Frosty. Today I will attempt to do a miniature rescue from the haul that I got in a previous video. This time I will do the Kabalite warriors. I'll get back at ya later. So the Kabalite warriors, as you have seen, it's been primed in a very reddish brown color with a little bit of zenithal highlighting done. There's also a bit of rattle can spray in a blue color. I guess it's rattle can spray, but anyway, it's been done on the weapon parts. The other cool things that I am really curious about is the base. It's been done with a rocky sandy texture. It looks so surreal, and I'm actually curious where they got that. I am most probably sure that those are actually beach sand. So before I start painting the miniature, I have to make a few guesses. The first thing is that the mold lines are actually visible, and also some parts where the sprue bits are being cut off actually is cut off a little bit too much and the details are lost. So I was thinking of whether I should paint it in a lot of details or just very basic like base coat and then each highlights, and also doing just a true metallic metal paint rather than trying to do some non-metallic metal in some areas. And also the highlights, there are areas in between the arms and guns and the legs, and the thing is the miniatures are actually already glued and the texture bases have already been applied near the legs, so I have no way of taking the miniatures apart from the base. I'm actually wondering how I'm going to highlight that area, so I decided to test it out with two different color schemes that I thought of at first. So first one I did with the edge highlighting on the similar to the boxed art, which is greenish blue edge highlight with a base of incubi darkness, and the other one the same base with incubi darkness but with edge highlight of orange. I saw it on like certain Facebook group on the Dark Elder Facebook page. They were using like orange on the river jet bikes with the orange edge highlight, and I thought it looked cool, so I tried it on the Kabalite warrior. I tried it on two models. After that I look at it and I didn't really like the one with orange edge highlight. It looks kinda comic-y, cartoonish, and also I tried to give them a gold shoulder pad and knee pads. And also on the green edge highlight, I kind of look at it and I decided that it looks a bit too bland, so I decided that I should start over. Instead of base coating with incubi darkness, I kinda want the whole body to be orangey, and I also got the inspiration from a Facebook group, orange body, blue eyes and blue glowing weapons with some black or brownish shadows. So instead of stripping the paint, I decided that I can just paint over orange on the base color of the incubi darkness itself. I'm not really worried about whether the paints are going to be a little too thick, because the priming in itself initially wasn't that thick. It didn't really cover up that details. And it's the next day. I woke up and I base coated it with orange. At this point of time my hobby, I have come to the realization that it is much more efficient to use an airbrush rather than a brush on models that are more than one, and I want the base to be very smooth and even. If you are using a normal brush, it's going to be very chalky looking and uneven. Airbrush really helps, but I'm going to make another video on airbrush because it's another story to tell. So I start using the moon yellow from Vallejo Air and orange fire, and I pour some of the orange fire mix with the moon yellow, and I pour some airbrush thinner into that mix. I find the orange a little too orangey at first, so I put in a little bit more of the moon yellow from Vallejo Air. Then I proceeded with airbrushing the base color of orange on top of the previous Incubi Darkness base, and the first thing I realized is that I miss the smell. That yellow smell, it's a very sweet kind of smell. It reminds me of the time when I first bought an airbrush just a few months ago, painting my Imperial Feast. It's a very nostalgic smell, I kind of miss it. So after airbrushing the mix of moon yellow and orange fire into the Incubi Darkness base on the miniature, I realized that I might need more than 2 coats to evenly cover up and not be able to see through the Incubi Darkness base. So what I did instead was to reapply a primer on the surface using white surface primer by Vallejo, and that is so that I can get a better surface on my yellow, because yellow and orange, what I have totally forgotten about when I painted my Imperial Feast, yellows and orange are very troublesome colors to work and play with. They don't have a very good coverage. Once you spray them or paint them over, you can still see very clearly the coats underneath, the colors underneath. So after painting the white surface primer, I decided that I want a more orangey color than yellow to my base. So what I did was to spray with pure orange fire instead, and no moon yellow this time. The first coat, it looks a bit more yellow, and then I started to paint the second coat of orange fire, and then now we are talking. It looks really good right now. And so the battery for my camera actually decided to die off, and while waiting for the battery to recharge, I decided to do a test scheme on the miniature itself, and I kinda like the final result, so I went along with all the other 9 models with a blue eyes and blue weapons and all that good stuff. I also tried to play around with doing the shadows by using red brown or black red by Vallejo into the shadow area to give a more definition or depth into the miniature itself. And for the edge highlight, I was using the Evelyn Sunset and a light yellow model color by Vallejo. So after painting the small areas of the eyes and that mouth thingy with Sotek green, and also the interior of the gun with Sotek green, I decided to use an airbrush to give a glowing effect into the weapons. So I used Magic Blue by Vallejo model Air color and start mixing white surface primer into the center part of the weapon to give a glowing effect. And as the area gets wider apart, I started using more pure Magic Blue. And so we are done for the miniature. Yeah, what it turns out. And so honestly speaking, this is 2 days of me sitting here after taking the video and painting the models itself. I don't really like the color scheme, and looking at the past photos of the Incubi Darkness base and the edge highlight, I kind of prefer that one instead of orange. I'm not sure whether it is because of my friends telling me that I am going back to painting Imperial Feast on the Dark Eldar. So I'm not going to strip that model. I plan to run like 20-man Kabalite warriors, or maybe 10 going into 4 raiders. Still have no idea how to build my list with Kabalite warrior spam, But yeah, it looks like I still have a lot more Kabalite warriors in the future to pin. Most probably the next one, I've already built another 10 Kabalite warriors. I'm going to just do it in the Incubi Darkness color scheme. So this has been Frosty. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.